This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Today, New York City hosts the New York Red Bulls in the first Hudson River Derby of the year. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
New York Red Bulls. There's Matty Lawrence. I'm Glenn Crooks. We're going to have the live commentary for you coming up beginning at 4:15 with the pregame show featuring Pascal Janssen, the New York City FC head coach. And Matty, well, there's a number of things to review going into this game for sure. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the last time these two clubs met was right here at Citi Field last year. And it was the first time they had ever met in the playoffs. And the Red Bulls prevailed 2-0 after New York City swept the regular season series. And only a few weeks earlier had thrashed them at Red Bull Arena 5-1. But it was a different story for the playoff game.
Yeah, playoffs are always totally different. Form, really, the form book goes out of the window. You only need to look at the FA Cup final for that, a knockout game. The FA Cup final, and Man City lose to Crystal Palace. Man City, much the better team, better squad, much more money, and they lost. They didn't prevail, and I think that was similar in the Red Bulls game. I think that NYCFC in that playoff game were probably the better team from what I remember, but they got hit a couple of times. They got hit by a sucker punch 1-2 very, very quickly in the first half. Two goals came very close together, and they dominated possession. I think they dominated shots on target, but they couldn't find the back of the net. And look, that is similar to the DC United game in midweek as well. It almost all comes together very nicely. And this NYCFC side have been very, very inconsistent, as have New York Red Bulls. But I thought in that last game against DC United, they played very well. I thought it was a very good away performance. They were much the better team, but that's all irrelevant if you can't find the back of the net. And probably a little worryingly for NYCFC is the man who scores the goals, Alonso Martinez, looks a little out of sorts. I think Alonso Martinez in good form would have scored at least one against DC United. So yes, there's many different things and themes there, but we've kind of all woven them together to bring us back here today to Citi Field. And I'm very much looking forward to the game. It's perfect weather. I got here to the game about 2:45. There's an awful lot going on outside. Had a great atmosphere. There was a lot of New York Red Bulls fans coming together, traveling with NYCFC fans.
Like this at the subway. You sent me this picture.
I sent you that picture just as I was walking in. It's great to see that people coming together, and that's what this great game should do. It should bring people together.
That's where Derby should be. Well, you beat me to the punch on the FA Cup final. No, I want to offer congratulations. So for those of you who don't know, Matty Lawrence played a bunch of games in England, and one of his teams was Crystal Palace. So this, and you played in an FA Cup final as the captain for Millwall against Manchester United. Tim Howard was in the goal for Man U. And that didn't work out, but you got to a final. No, but I would imagine when the FA Cup final comes around, I probably asked you this before. You probably, take note. You would watch it anyway, maybe. But now you're an alum.
Yeah,
you're an
absolutely.
alum, and they were in the final, man.
Look, I look at it very fondly. It was a wonderful period of my life. The whole run, obviously, the final is special itself, but we lost it. So, in a sporting sense, you try and forget about that. But the cup run itself, all the way from the third round, all the way through to the FA Cup final, it's magnificent. And of course, I spent 4 years at Crystal Palace, so I had my eye on the game. I watched about the first 50, 60 minutes, and then I had to jump on the subway and come over here to Citi Field. But from what I saw in the first half, it's what Crystal Palace do. They hit on the counter. They're not as good as Man City. Man City dominated possession. They had upwards of 70% possession at times, but they've got Dean Henderson in goal. They've got a wonderful US international, Chris Richards, playing at centre-half. Mark Gahey as well, an English international. I think they did what they do. And that counter-attacking goal and the finish from Eze was magnificent.
I was listening to the game on Sirius XM FC who, by the way, will be carrying our game beginning at 4:30. They'll start picking up the coverage of this Hudson River Derby here in Queens. And that sunshine you see, that's the way Wembley looked today for the big game. But Manchester City had 81% of the ball when Crystal Palace scored off that counter, and that was it.
Yeah, I think it came 15, 16 minutes into the game, and they had to, I was texting, friends back home in England,
sure.
and who were there at the game, like, Crystal Palace have not touched the ball. They had hardly touched the ball, and the next second it finds its way into the back of the net.
Yeah.
But that's what counter-attacking football is all about.
Sure.
There's no way that Crystal Palace can play the Man City way against Man City and beat them. They have to think of a different way to play, soak up the pressure, and then hit on the counter. When you've got players of the quality of Eze and Mateta up front, who held the ball up very well for that goal, that's what happens. And of course, as NYCFC found playing against DC United, it doesn't always matter about how much you possess the ball, how many chances you get, how many times you hit the target. You've got to find a way past the goalkeeper. And DC United couldn't do that, NYCFC couldn't do that against DC United.
Well, they haven't done it for a while, so we've been adding up the minutes.
We have.
It's
it's hurting my head.
Yeah, it's 300 and it's over 300 and over 350 minutes all competitions without a goal, and then in MLS
261 minutes in MLS
261. So with that in mind, and then look, and I reviewed this last night for those of you who may have watched the NYCFC Views, which I co-host with Roberto Abramowitz, who's on our Spanish side of commentary. I went through these, and I think it's fair to at least point this out. It's not really analytical. It's just straight statistics. So first of all, you have Alonso Martinez, who has scored 6 goals, 6 of the 13 for New York City. Hannes Wolf, he's got 3 goals. He's the second leading scorer, but he hasn't scored since that Atlanta game. 599 minutes without a goal. Agustin Ojeda, who has been counted on the attacking side and needs to score goals. 469 minutes this year without a goal. His third and final goal last season was in late June, so he's gone 821 minutes without a goal. And then we go to Julian Fernandez. He scored the game winner against Cincinnati. It was a wonderful finish, 1-0 win here at Citi Field. Julian Fernandez had gone 285 minutes without a goal before that, and since it's 261 minutes without a goal. And not to mention Monza Bakrar, who's played 300 minutes as the backup striker, and he has not scored. So there, and I've said to Pascal, and we've discussed the lack of a supplemental goal scorer. And let's play this whole Pascal clip, which is from our conversation yesterday, part of the pregame show coming up, and then we'll get your thoughts, Matty.
It still has the appearance if Alonso doesn't score, we're not sure who's going to pick up the slack.
Yeah, well, that's nothing new to us. There is a lot of confidence in Alonso scoring his goals, but other than that, we are also very realistic about the fact that it's only Alonso and sometimes somebody else, and that has to change. And that's what we're working on every day in order to have more output and more outcome from guys like Hannes or Agu or Juli, or even from midfield with Pepe now coming back into the team, because those are guys that are capable of scoring a goal, and that is what you see in the game in Wednesday as well. They get the opportunities, but you have to put it in the back of the net in order to win games and score these moments.
Because if you look at the chance that Hannes Wolf had, I mean, that was, you could perhaps have that relate to pressing a little bit too much when it's a ball played to him where he could just slot it into the back post. Now, maybe not, but it just seems like that's a moment to me that stands out in as much as maybe the team's a little frustrated. I don't know if that's the proper word.
No.
All right.
No, and it has nothing to do with pressing or whatever. It has to do with remaining calm in the final third and in the final phase of execution. If you go back to that specific moment where he missed that ball in the second half, it's a fantastic play from our side, and we get him into an opportunity where he should be able to get the ball between the poles, and he doesn't, and he is fully aware of that, because he was devastated after the game because he missed this huge opportunity. On the other hand, he's a winger. We're 13 games into the season. If I'm not mistaken, he scored 3 goals. And he's been in several situations where he could have scored more goals, and that's what it's about. And remaining focused on these moments to get the finish off is something that he is very busy with.
All right, that's Pascal Janssen, head coach of New York City FC. And again, the full conversation coming up at 4:15. So my thought, and I want yours, is that yes, you need to be calm in front of goal and countering the frustration remark that I made. But sometimes it can be frustration, and certainly it's stress, pressure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you need to be calm in front of goal. But the fact that some of these guys haven't scored in so long and the team hasn't scored, I'm sure you've played against players that are tense.
Yeah, absolutely. Look,
when they're shooting.
Some good things can come from that being born of frustration. And the players should be frustrated. But you can be frustrated off the pitch about your lack of goals and not take that frustration onto the pitch. But it can drive you. For me, the big problem is Alonso Martinez himself looking a little bit out of sorts right now because he is the goal scorer. He has got virtually 50% of NYCFC's goals. I think it is a big weight on his shoulders. He knows he's really the only natural goal scorer in the team. Yes, Hannes Wolf's got a few goals. Fernandez will chip in here and there. But none of them look comfortable in front of goal, apart from Alonso Martinez, Glenn. None of them look natural in front of goal. All of them look a little bit tense in front of goal. I think it's going to take maybe like a wonder strike when they're not thinking about it. I think quite often as well, people who aren't used to scoring goals, if you've got a little bit too much time to think about it, that's when you tense up and should I go to the keeper's right, left? Should I chip it? Should I dink it? What should I do? And then you just get caught up in so many different minds. It's a worry. Look at those lack of goals, and we're not saying it to get on the back of this team, but all the facts are there. 351 minutes without a goal in all comps, 261 minutes in MLS play. Only Alonso Martinez really who knows how to score goals. It's a big problem when you play well too. And they played well against DC United. I thought it was a really good performance up until the last 20 yards of the field, up until the penalty area. You've got to be good. We always say any good team is good in both penalty areas. You keep clean sheets and you know how to score goals. At the moment, the clean sheets are there at times, but the scoring goals, it's certainly lacking, isn't it?
Yeah, and the previous 2 games before DC, one was the U.S. Open Cup game, eliminated by Pittsburgh. The gaffer called that terrible, and then he called the performance against CF Montreal, a 1-0 defeat, a very poor performance. Those are the previous 2 matches, and that's after the FC Cincinnati game. So we have talked pretty regularly about consistency or lack thereof, and certainly it would seem that New York City is lacking that at the moment. In the overall series, Matty, the Red Bulls have 11 wins to 10 wins for New York City. In the regular games, the regular season games, New York City's only lost 1 of the last 6, and they swept the series last year. And that game at Red Bull Arena, the 5-1 result, saw Tavon Gray score the 5th goal, getting his first as a New Yorker, as a professional with the first team. And it just seemed to stimulate some sort of positive thinking about how it was going to go from there. What do you recall about the playoff game that was so detrimental?
I just think, I can't remember the exact goals, but I know the 2 goals came pretty quickly. And if I remember correctly,
well,
they were
entirely
from stoppable. They were entirely stoppable, in my opinion, both of the goals, which most goals are stoppable, aren't they? Let's be honest. If you analyse a goal, there's somewhere where you should be able to stop it. So I think going into a playoff game when you've swept the series, I think that it's almost like the law of averages, that team's got to win at some point because of the parity within this league, because of the inconsistencies with both of these teams as well, which happened last season and it's happened this season as well. You have no idea. It's impossible to predict the scoreline in this game. Firstly, because it's a derby, and secondly, because you don't know which New York Red Bulls team's going to turn up, and you certainly have no idea which NYCFC team's going to turn up. If you look
that's clear.
If you look at the Red Bulls' last few games, the last 5 games are lost, won, lost, won, lost. It's impossible. You don't know who's going to turn up. For me, a good thing today is that Aidan O'Neill is playing.
That's right.
He's like a metronome in the middle of that park. He looks entirely comfortable on the ball anywhere. With 3 players around him, he's still demanding the ball. I think he's a natural-born leader, and he likes to take – I love players who can take the ball in tight situations, in tight areas, and I think he can drive this team on. Whether he's quite at match fitness, I would doubt that, Glenn. I don't think he's quite there yet, but you would assume you'd probably be able to get 60 to 75 minutes out of him today.
It's good to see him in there. He's replacing Johnny Shore in the midfield. He came in for Maxi Morales in the second half of the midweek game. That was planned because you're trying to save the moments for Maxi Morales, who is at the 11. And there you do see the 11. We believe it'll be a back 4. And if it is, it'll be Burke Risa at left back. Kevin O'Toole is still out. Keaton Parks is still out, along with Malachi Jones, who still has a pretty lengthy period of time before he'll even be considered. All right, Matty, we're gonna get ourselves prepared for the pregame show, which is coming up in a little less than 15 minutes now at 4:15. And today, if you're watching us now and you're going to be watching the game at home, be sure to tune into MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. There's a drop-down feature in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or whether it's your TV screen or your computer, and then you'll be able to get our commentary and sync it up. We're also on the New York City FC Network and also Sirius XM FC Channel 157. So that's going to do it for us. We've got a big one coming up, the Hudson River Derby. And thank you so much for joining us here, and we look forward to talking to you there. And then talk to you soon. Enjoy the game, everybody.